Welcome to the Grey Areas with Magdalena. It's your favorite host, Sisanda Jafta, and this is a platform that seeks to unpick the unpopular opinions around the phrase, not everything is black and white. Simply put, it's not that simple. We discuss all things that have the potential to distort our ability to be sober-minded. Welcome to the Grey Areas with Magdalena. I'm so excited to be finally back on the mag. Welcome everybody. Special shout out to the GA squad. Now let me tell you who is a GA squad. A GA squad is anyone and everyone who comes back for the second time on this very platform. And of course, we have our new audience, which is our lovely YouTubers. I want to pull the famous line. Welcome to our YouTube channel. I always enjoy saying this because I've been practicing. I've been waiting for this moment. And of course, I can never forget my loyal audience, which is our audio podcast GA Squad members. Welcome everybody, and I am excited as always, literally as always. Today we are kickstarting one of my favorite conversations to have, one of my favorite topics to have, and it will be a two-part series. And yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been working on it as well, just to make sure that when I come here, I bring you guys premium content, stellar content, absolutely great content, and not just book value content, but something I know, something I've lived, and something I'm comfortable talking about, you know. So yeah, we are talking about shame, debunking and overcoming shame. That is what we are talking about today. And this topic is very close to my heart because I think I have a very long-term relationship with it. Absolutely long term, as far back as primary school. I remember my first encounter with shame. I was in primary school and I was comparing myself with other kids because I had just recently moved to a town, and I think a bit of me felt like I don't belong there. So I was comparing myself with everyone there, and I was feeling like I'm inferior. I was feeling like I'm less of. And one of the examples I remember vividly was around lunch boxes. Other kids were carrying white Albany bread, Sasko, but like white bread, and my sister and I were carrying steamed bread that was baked at home because we never bought bread. Like for the duration of my childhood, I never bought bread. We baked bread, like we literally made bread. So I just felt like, no man, this is off. Who carries bag at school? Who carries steamed bread? Like, it was just so ghetto. I didn't enjoy lunchtime unless, of course, we were carrying leftovers from takeaways last night. My mom also loved baking. I enjoyed those because I got to brag about my mom's muffins. But other than that, I just felt like this whole steamed bread situation is very ghetto. And it was making me feel shameful, like I'm less of, or I'm not like other kids and all of that. And that kind of thinking perpetuated as I grew until my mom put me in check. This one time we were having a school tour and she gave me 20 rands, whilst other kids were having like 50 rands, 100 rands. Obviously at the time it was like a lot of money. And I cried, Mom, you can't give me 20 rands. There were other kids who had 20 rands, by the way, but because it is me, it is I want more. My mom quickly put me in check to let me know that we are not the same. We come from different backgrounds and I need to outgrow this thinking, you know. And that conversation really sobered me up real fast. To say, baby girl, you need to stop shaming yourself. You need to stop shaming your childhood. You need to stop shaming your parents. You just need to drop it, you know. And I think things started getting better for me in terms of how I think and how I perceive myself. And in as much as this is such a silly example, but I'm just thinking that growing up, we are groomed in shame. And let me explain how, or what do I mean by that. You know, you grow up being told, have a little bit of shame. Hibana mahloni when you do this. We are body shamed. Why are you like this? Why are you like that? Don't do that. Who will marry you? Like everything is just revolving around perceiving yourself as a bad person, or you're just not doing enough and all of that. And in as much as it's normalized, or it was normalized back in the days, I still feel like it was wrong. I feel like it was not okay. We were shamed for our body tone. If you are not a white blonde girl, you are dimmed unpretty, like you're not beautiful. Unpretty is not a word, but I just said it anyways. You are deemed to be not beautiful. There's just a lot of shame that was sticking everywhere. If you had acne on your face, there was a shame that you experienced. If you had a particular body type, there was a shame that you experienced. And I really hope and trust that our kids and our nephews, like the younger generation, is not experiencing that kind of drama, honestly, because these things have long-term implications as we grow up, and that is why I thought, let's just have this conversation, because as adults, shame is not easily manageable as it is when you are younger. When you are younger, you laugh it off. When you are younger, it's just like, it is what it is. I mean, it rubs off you the wrong way from time to time, but not as bad as it does in your adult years, and I'll explain why as we talk. But first things first, let me explain, or rather define, what shame is. According to the dictionary, the definition of shame is an unpleasant feeling that negatively affects you in terms of how you perceive yourself, or a belief that you are a bad person. So now, based on this definition, it's already clear that this is not a nice feeling. This is not a nice thing to go through. This is not a nice thing to experience, and I'm sitting here thinking that there's two types of people that are subject, or highly subject, to experiencing shame, and that is the prideful person and someone who's constantly making bad decisions. You look at your life and you marvel at, wow, I single-handedly managed to make such horrible decisions about my life, and I've made a mess of my life based on my quality of based on the quality of my decisions. That can bring a lot of shame, especially as you grow up. You look at the life you desired to have versus what you have managed to do. And also sometimes you look at your peers and you're like, this is not working out. You start assuming shame, right? And the second group is the prideful people. So one of the things pride does, it is to have you self-elevate. That is, you self-elevate, your thoughts elevate how you do things. You pride yourself in being the best there is, and there's nothing wrong with that if it's healthy. However, when it is from a prideful place, even when you make a mistake, you cannot separate you from the mistake, or you cannot separate the fact that, this is just a mistake, it's not me. And now, because you are a prideful person, you can't ask for help. You can't even admit that this was a mistake. And you end up just rolling in shame. So those are the two types of people that I know for sure are subject, or are highly likely to experience shame. And then, of course, anyone and everyone can experience shame. And I'm just sitting here thinking how shame is such a very complex emotion. It has layers and layers. It appears as insecurities, as fear. It appears as hopelessness. And sometimes it isolates you, because when you are so used to just shaming yourself, viewing yourself in a negative form, you are very much you appear very much ineffective, because you doubt everything you do. You doubt everything you're saying. You're just in this horrible space where you are not sure about yourself. You are scared to show up. You are judging yourself, and sometimes you start judging other people because you are so used to just entertaining this kind of thinking about yourself. So basically, shame is not a good feeling, and it has layers and layers and layers. One of the things I'm just thinking about right now is how shame perpetuates rejection. Oh my God, if you are experiencing constant rejection, you are most likely to then enter into shame, because you're like, but what is wrong with me? Why is everyone constantly shaming me? rather everyone constantly rejecting me? Why, like, you just start having a bad image about yourself, bad thoughts about yourself, and the more you shame yourself, chances are people are gonna reject you as well, because now you are not pleasant to be around. So it's like a vicious cycle where it's shame, rejection, shame in the same breath. And I'm even just thinking about the adulterous woman in the Bible. You can check the story in the book of John, chapter 8, where they found a woman who was adulterous, and they took her to Jesus with the desire to shame this woman. And not only shame this woman, but she would then be rejected, because that would then be the verdict of your actions, rejection, right? And I love what Jesus does. She embraces this woman and then says, who condemns you now? Obviously, I'm paraphrasing a lot. Please go read the story yourself. Jesus says, who condemns you now? Because I do not condemn you. And this leads us actually to, how do you then overcome shame? How do you then deal with shame when you are in this vicious cycle of rejection, of isolation, of horrible thoughts about yourself, horrible body image, horrible image about even the people and things around you? What do you then do? How do you walk tall, and the first thing that just comes to my mind, really, actually, let me read a quote by Anne Vaskop. She says, shame dies when it is told in safe spaces. And I'm just thinking that one of the reasons shame constantly perpetuates is because spaces are not safe enough for that. Already, if you believe that by 30 you should be married with kids in a nice G-Wagon in a fancy suburb, and you don't have that, and the society around you is constantly pestering you about this, already that environment is not safe. Already that environment is perpetuating shame to thrive in you, to say, I'm actually not good enough, I have not achieved enough. In the workplace, an unsafe space can look like your boss constantly telling you that you are providing work that is below par. And this is by no means saying that you guys should produce mediocre work, but the space meant for affirmation, the space for being affirmed that you are good enough, or what you're doing is okay, there's room for improvement and all of that. But when the environment is shameful, why are you doing it like that? The previous employees didn't do it like this. You're costing us millions. Whew. Such an environment perpetuates shame. In our families, where you are constantly compared to the other siblings. Where you are compared to the other siblings, look at what others have done and look at you. And all of those things, such environments perpetuate shame. So we really need to cultivate environments that are safe, environments that are free of judgment, environments that can correct. I recently did an episode, please go check it out, on our audio podcast around unsolicited advice, that we need to be careful around that, because that thing also perpetuates shame, where people are just giving you random advices, and sometimes they're just touching the nerve because you are speaking around an area that I'm struggling with, and now you're making me feel unsafe by bringing it up constantly. Why are you constantly spending money? And please hear me well, guys, I am not in any form advancing or advocating for bad behavior here, but I'm just saying there's space and a way for correction that will not perpetuate shame. And some of the way this so-called correction comes in are definitely the catalyst of shame, and we need to be careful. So how do we overcome shame other than creating safe spaces? The first way, really, it is to be honest. Be honest about where you are, what is going on, what you're feeling. Be honest with yourself before you can be honest with the next person. Be honest with the fact that I'm not happy with the decisions I have made. Be honest with the fact that I don't like the consequences I'm reaping as a result of this. I actually made a career mistake, and probably there's no point of return from this because I'm far too gone. I don't like the relational choices I have made. Be honest with yourself and own your story. It starts there. And I'd probably even say it ends there, but I'd be lying. It doesn't end there. But it definitely starts there, being honest with yourself and acknowledge things for what they are. Be truthful. This happened. And the minute you do that, I feel like that's the first step of debunking shame, because shame does not do well in confrontation. If you have been bullied and you once stood up for your bully, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. That person, after you stand up for yourself, will never ever touch you again. Because shame, it's like, it thrives when you do this. I'm sorry to people who are on audio podcast, I'm just bending my head. It thrives when your head is bent and you don't see beyond yourself. You don't see beyond your situation or what has just happened. So what I'm saying is that the second way to deal with shame is through confrontation. Confront shame. Confront that it happened, and so what? And so what? It happened. How do I grow from this? It happened. How do I learn from this? Yes, I said the most unpleasant thing to that person. How do I make things right? How do I apologize? Don't run away from shame, because it will thrive. In fact, it wants you to put your tail at your back and just walk shamefully. It's like shame wants you to constantly be in shame. But the minute you confront it, it dies down. And I think that's what the Pharisees didn't realize when they took that adulterous woman to Jesus, that they were walking in step with debunking shame, because now basically they brought her to Jesus and it was a matter of, and then what? She did it, and then what? So that confrontation debunked, or it removed the grips of shame. I hope that makes sense. And then the third thing that is coming to my mind is obviously create safe spaces to talk about this. Find safe people who will not judge you, people who will not make you feel like, how dare you do such a thing, or how dare you become that person, and all of that. I think creating safe friendships, relationships, or whatever does take time and all of that, but make it your point to find safe people, because when you share your story to someone who is very unsafe, they will make you regret why you even opened your mouth. And you'll even feel more horrible for what you've said than what has actually happened. So please really find safe people that will help you to debunk shame and make you move past that, and help you to bring solutions and everything else that you need. I hope that makes sense. And then last but not least way of dealing with shame, it is through, let me see, I've said 3 things: be honest, confront it, create safe spaces. Yeah, I think let me stop there actually, because I can't remember. I can't remember the third one, and I can't find it on my notes as well. But as I'm just talking about this, I'm realizing that it is of importance that we debunk shame, so that we become the people God has called us to be, because you don't want to walk in shame and render yourself ineffective. So yeah, I think let me wrap it up here before I say a whole lot. I think I've said a mouthful that you can just ponder on yourself and probably share your experiences on shame and how you've overcame that. But yeah, this was such a good conversation. I enjoyed having it. So please, 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 please debunk shame. Debunk shame. Call it for what it is. I did it, and then what? And you will see how it quickly loses its grip. So yeah, this is it from my side. Let me wrap up the conversation. We will have our second installment with a guest. I am super excited for this one. You definitely don't want to miss out. So please do share, comment, like, do everything that needs to be done for this channel to grow, so that we grow together. Love you so much. We will talk next time. Bye.